Howdy, folks. It's story time. It's another great story from the library of G Money. What the heck is that? Got me some kind of bullfrog or something croaking over here. It's like living in the wild, wild west. This morning I gets up and I got a black bunny rabbit. I just saw him 5 minutes ago. It's not even like a wild rabbit. It's like someone's pet that got away. He's been living up here in the crib. He's eating my marigolds. What am I supposed to do? That'll be another story time another time. It might be some rabbit stew story time. But, all right. I reckon all the noise is gone now. But this story takes place, I reckon it was back in, probably the mid-'80s. I worked for that there police department, the Delaware State Police, between 83 and 90. So I'm just going to say 1985. So I used to ride a lot with these troopers, especially when I was really close with a lot of these troopers on, we called it C shift. That was what their shift rotation was called. It was all alphabetical. So I'm riding with this trooper, and this is the funniest thing. I can laugh so hard today, but it wasn't too funny at the time. But they get a call to go to the Delaware State Hospital, which was the mental health hospital with people who are a lot of deranged people who aren't all in the right frame of mind. So they get a call, and that there was an unruly patient or something like that. And the trooper's he says to me, we were good friends. He says, man, he goes, something doesn't sound right. He goes, they usually have orderlies and security and stuff like that for these type of problems. He says, we've never been called to the hospital. It also had the name Seven Stacks. That was the nickname because it had seven big smokestacks or stacks. I forget what it was originally, but it's converted into a mental health institution. So we get there. I'm with the trooper, and we're the first ones there. And I'm just basically an observer. But even back then, I was pretty jacked up. If we have to roll around with somebody, we're going to roll around. But first thing they make the troopers do is take their weapons out and put them in a lockbox, almost like a locker bin type thing. So, and it was funny. All the guys on C shift, they were probably all 6'3" minimum, big boys, big troopers, So I'll never forget this. When you walk into the room, all the lockers for your, where they make everybody put their weapons and everything, were off to the left. And then there was looked like a big comfortable lounge, like living room type area. And there's this one big fella sitting in this tall, I guess you'd call it like a Victorian chair or something like that, real high back and everything. And this guy he was chiseled. He was, turns out they brought him in from Delaware State University. And then there's more troopers. It was kind of crazy because I think there was probably 6 troopers that showed up, plus me just as an observer, and then they had the orderlies and everything. So I'll never forget this one guy, Sergeant Pinkett. He was the coolest dude on the planet. I love that guy. He was, oh my God. Normally I don't give first name and last name. His name was Lou Pinkett. He was the coolest dude, man. He could go sit down with the DuPonts and get along with them. He could go into the ghetto and get along with people. He just had the gift of gab. He was really cool. So Sergeant Pinkett, he was African American, and the individual who came in from Delaware State University was African American, and so a couple people had tried to talk to him, and it didn't go too well. The guy was he would be up and down with his he would just start yelling and screaming, and then he started quoting all this like Jim Jones Guyana tragedy stuff. It was just like the craziest thing you ever heard in your life. So, and then he would calm down, and then he would start whispering. He goes, "But I love you, brother." You know, he would start. He was just he would like he was total loose cannon. This guy was probably on like PCP or something. But so everybody was like, "Well, if anybody could talk to this dude, it's going to be Lou Pinkett because he had the gift of gab, and he was over there trying to talk to him, and then they kind of started getting in a relationship, and then finally the dude said, he says, "I love you, brother, but I don't want to have to kill you." So everybody's looking at each other like, "All right, well, you know, about to go down." So I'll never forget. It was wintertime. It was pretty cold. This guy had one of these big like Leatherman type jackets, if you know what I mean, like college or high school Leatherman type jackets and everything. So they finally they all get, you know, they get the nerve and the guts to go approach this guy, because you could see even sitting down, this dude was like, whew, he was chiseled. He was he was nobody you want to tangle with. So I'll never forget. They go over there, and like picture there was probably at least 4 or 5 troopers. One trooper grabs his right bicep with both hands, which didn't even, like, fingertips didn't even touch. The other trooper gets the other bicep, and then somebody gets his wrist, and the other, you know, and then somebody gets him by some other part. I forget what it was, like his shoulder or something. And they start walking him out of the lounge area, and I look at the back of his jacket, and I'm like, oh man, this is going to get ugly. The back of his jacket, I kid you not, I was trying to get their attention, and like, I didn't want to like activate the problem, but the back of his jacket, I kid you not, said MEAC heavyweight champion. He's the Mid-East Atlantic Conference heavyweight wrestling champion. And I'm like, oh my God. But here it gets better. When they stood him up, he started to count. He wasn't arguing or anything. He was just real loud. And he says, 10. Then they walked him a couple, 9. And they're trying to get him down the hall before he gets to 0. And we're about to 7, and I could see all this on the back of his jacket. I'm like, oh man, like there's going to be an explosion here soon. So they get him down the hall. I forget what the count was, but it was kind of like, it was like right around 1 or something like that. And they go to put him in a room, and then the door shuts, and then all of a sudden, there was a little tiny window. All of a sudden, I see bodies flying all over the place. They're up and down, up and down. I'm trying to look in, and they are fighting the daylights out of this guy, and he was tossing them around like rag dolls, and they finally got him strapped to the I don't know what you call it, the gurney or the bed or whatever it was, with his wrist and everything, and then the female doctor comes in, sees it. Oh, let me back up. While all that's happening, all the noise and all the screaming, all the cussing and all the commotion, all these patients are coming out of the hall. And it looked just like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I kid you not. It was the craziest damn thing. So I kind of got my back to the wall, and I'm looking around like, oh man, like, where's my protection, you know? So anyway, the doctor, female doctor, she goes, no, he can't be clothed, you know. And these guys are all, their shirts are all ripped, and their hats, you know, they're all messed up, man. They're all beat to hell. It looked like they fought Mike Tyson for like 27 rounds or something. But they're like, you know, the hell with that, like BS, you know, like, you want us to get him subdued. We got him subdued. There he is. If you want him naked, you cut those clothes off him. We're not messing with this dude no more. So they're all walking down the hall. They're all huffing and puffing. I'm like, you guys did you know that? Like, I had to tell them what it, and they're like, no way. I'm like, yeah, what, you know, what's the chances of that? But so anyway, Delaware State Police versus heavyweight wrestling champion in Delaware. it was not a good outcome. I tell you what, at that point, I think everybody, all those troopers, wanted to become secretaries or something, because that was one night they will never forget. I'll never forget it either. Thank God I came out unscathed, but those boys, they all were like scratched up and swollen eyes, and it was ugly. But that's another true story time. The life and times of G Money in life in Delaware. I hope you all appreciated that, and have a good night.